Hi, Amy.
Happy.
Last night we watched 90 Day Fiancé Season 11, Episode 3. Any quick notes?
Boning.
I agree. This is not going well.
As I was watching it, I was questioning whether or not I was actually watching it. Like, did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did
Yeah.
anything happen? Did I miss something? So I kept like rewinding it and going back and forth. And
It was easy to get distracted in this episode, I have to admit. And it's only 3. Okay, before we dig in, let's do the 1, 2, 3 quick notes. Rate, review, and follow us wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you. 2, watch our podcast on YouTube at 90 Day Fiancé Honestly. And 3, our subscriber-only content in which we're discussing Season 2 of The Last Resort as well as Between the Sheets is available on Apple and Spotify only.
And as of last week, we do have a bonus episode just because.
Yes, we had a little extra talk last week, so we threw that up there as well.
Yes.
Let's get into it. Starting off with Mark and Mina. It's the morning after she's arrived. She calls her son Clayton on video chat. There was a weirdness here. Did you take note of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Mark says that Clayton is staying with Mina's friend, but she said it was her sister.
Yeah, and didn't they have a clip last week of her sister saying that she was watching him?
Think so? What's going on? Then Mina says this woman, her name is Tracy, is a good person, but she's not Clayton's mom. Well, of course she isn't, but she's not even her aunt? I don't understand.
What a strange thing to say.
I was very perplexed at this quite obvious lie. Where is it coming from and what is the purpose of it? And is it foreshadowing more of what we're going to see in the rest of the season? Because I feel like I'm on really shaky ground now. If you can't even trust who she's saying is looking after her son, then what else is not real?
Yeah, because Marcus said from the very beginning it was a friend, and then Mina said that it was her sister.
Mm-hmm.
So who is it?
And Mark was talking about the passport issue again. I was watching his face very carefully. There was a lot of hesitation and weird stuff going on at his face, and I felt like he was lying as well. Whether this is because he's been set up by production to not reveal too much so that it feels more dramatic than it actually is, I don't know. But
We don't know.
I was particularly attuned to the facial expressions on their faces. Where else would they be? Given that there was this difficulty at the outset of their segment that was problematic for me. Just quickly on the passports, I wondered, is this passport issue something we didn't discuss last week when we were talking about the passports before? Is it something to do with the baby daddy of this little boy who maybe is not cooperating with getting the passport, or they're unable to reach him in order to verify paternity or whatever it is they have to do in order to establish that this little boy can have his passport? Maybe that is the issue.
That was going to be my next question, because she said mom and dad are working on it. So either she's talking about the biological father or she's referring to Mark as dad, which would be weird.
I took it as Mark.
It's a lot of missing information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But she is visibly distressed about being separated from her son. I believe her emotions are real. Then she starts talking about maybe postponing the wedding, leaving things a little bit later than the 90 days because she wants to be sure that her son is able to join them for the wedding. But there's no going back. There's no other option. If they give up now, the K-1 visa has to be started from the beginning all over again. So clearly that's a dead end. That's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, they could try, but the likelihood of it being denied is quite high. Why didn't it work the first time? You're going to have to explain that to the embassy.
Unless you have the date of the wedding within those first 90 days, it's not going to be recognized and that person's going to get kicked out of the country. Anyway, Mina makes breakfast. She fills the house with smoke. Pretty funny. So I guess she's not much of a cook.
Yeah, I think before that, though, she made a comment that she wasn't sure that 90 days was long enough to decide whether or not she wanted to raise her kids there. So why not have a visit? Why not go and assess the situation first, unless she has her own visa issues?
Well, this is what goes back to the passport issues, because clearly she doesn't have a European passport if she's getting the temporary American one to travel on for the K-1. If she'd had permission to visit, don't you think she would have done that, given they've been together for, 5 years? 2 of them engaged?
I can't keep track.
It seems like a stretch that she's been perfectly able to travel all this time but she hasn't. And now they've got the K1 visa, so she will.
Again, missing reasons.
Yeah, missing information, sketchy, sketchy, sketchy.
Okay, but on to your last point, filling the house with smoke. Did you see what she did?
I know she was making her daughter a very healthy breakfast composed of meat, and a slice of white bread. Is that what you're referring to?
No, she had an electric grill on top of the stove, and she had the gas burner on.
Yes, classic.
At first, I thought it was like a cast iron grill pan.
Yeah.
But then when she unplugged it, I was like, oh, babe. Oh, you are so lucky right now. You could have actually set the house on fire.
Okay.
So, yes, not a professional chef. She's not.
No. The other thing that's missing this beautiful morning is baby supplies. And they are needed stat. Right now, she needs a high chair. She needs diapers. So it's time to go shopping off in his lovely Porsche Cayenne. Hello. Okay. So this guy has a plane and a very expensive car and a house on a runway. I wonder what her motives are.
I wonder. And also, did she not bring a diaper bag?
I guess not. Both of these people are so unprepared. Let's go shopping. The store, as with everything else that we've encountered thus far in Mina's wonderful and amazing journey into the United States, is disappointing. I thought perhaps Mark had done this deliberately to antagonize her.
Oh, kind of like, what's his face? Bilal, when he pulled the whole car and house thing.
The house, tricking her into thinking this is all that they have. Because given it's such an affluent area, you would think there's going to be a big, lovely grocery store somewhere. Maybe not nearby. Maybe you've got to drive for half an hour. But there's going to be a big grocery store somewhere close to all these rich people.
There's going to be a place where you can buy a high chair and lamb shanks. But they went to actually, it was a fairly well-stocked corner store, if that's what you want to call it. But based on what they were looking for, it was like the jankiest place he could have went. This has to be a production plant right there.
Definitely something is up. Either production or Mark is pulling Mina's chain. This was all a joke to see what kind of a reaction they could get out of her. Choosing the tiny little convenience store, or the gas station store, as Mark called it, was just hilarious. I loved it. But even better with that was when they went to the furniture. So that's a conglomeration of furniture and store. It's a furniture.
Yes, of course.
The furniture store was a complete joke. I'm like, Mark, quit playing with us. Come on now. You're going to get in trouble.
I thought it was absolutely hysterical, especially when they were panning around all the different products and they landed on the lamps with the antlers.
Very baby friendly. Perfect. Get that.
100%. 100%. This is the Hunter's Delight furniture store is what he took her to.
And I love the way that when they asked the salesperson, we're actually looking for baby items like a high chair. Do you have anything like that? Do you have any baby items? And he's like, no, but feel free to look around and let me know if anything catches your eye. But they want a high chair. If you don't have a high chair, they're just going to leave. They're not going to, but look at this lovely Elkhorn lamp. This would do.
No, maybe they just want to look around. Maybe they'll find something that they want instead of a high chair.
Of course. It is a bit hard on Mina, and I do empathize with her throughout both of these shopping expeditions, coming from Paris to this somewhat remote place. We're not sure how remote it is. It would be interesting if somebody could tell us exactly what this community is like. But seemingly where there are no stores, or Mark isn't taking her to them. Either way, this is a cruel, cruel joke to play on this woman, especially given what we know of how she likes to complain, how she's used to the cosmopolitan life. It's quite hilarious.
I really think that they're playing with fire at this point. Because she already said in the last episode that she would leave the next day if she could. So this has to be production. I don't think Mark would have it in him to test his boundaries that way.
Really? You don't think? Because when they sit down for dinner and he's talking about all of the gas station store items that they're eating or drinking, I thought he's in on it.
He was playing it up.
He's enjoying this.
Yes.
Shall we just move on to the hot tub?
I don't even remember dinner, so I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah, there wasn't much that happened at dinner, but the romantic hot tub time next, once they've put Maria to bed, with Veuve Clicquot in plastic cups.
Oh, God.
Shame on you,
Yeah,
Mark. Shame on you.
The ugly bitch deserves so much more. P.S. to our listeners, that's what we call Veuve Clicquot.
But
The ugly bitch.
ugly bitch.
Okay, well, maybe it was me and your brother. But anyway.
I think it was him because I only know her as a very nice widow.
She is glorious.
She is the best champagne. Well, actually, no. I've replaced Veuve Clicquot with a different favorite champagne in my mind now, but she is delicious and she should not be poured into plastic cups ever.
No,
she does not deserve that.
No. Anyway.
Nevertheless, that's where we are. We're in the tub. We've got the champagne. It's really not too romantic when they start talking about Jordan, Mark's daughter, for anybody who's forgotten. Mm-hmm. There is definitely, palpably friction between Mina and Jordan. Mark divulges a bit of information about Jordan that perhaps he should not have. He says to Mina that Jordan has doubts about Mina's motives in being in a relationship with her dad. He also says that Jordan has concerns about her dad having more kids, things you should not say in front of your brand new wife-to-be.
Yes. Maybe you should just put that into the corner of your mind and say that is my daughter's opinion and utilize that information as such, your daughter's opinion. Do you really think that this is going to bode well as information for your fiancé? No, way to drive that wedge further.
Yeah. And Mina retaliates. And she retaliates quite brutally.
Viciously.
By calling, she calls Jordan a snake. Not a good thing to say. I mean, they've only ever met the once in Paris, which was over the course of a single weekend. So it's probably been just a few hours in each other's company. They really don't know each other well. Mina has clearly formed some very prejudiced opinions about Jordan and vice versa. She gets totally fed up with Mark at this point. It's clear that she feels that she's not being supported by Mark, that he's not agreeing with her, saying that he's on Mina's side and saying things like, I'm Jordan's dad and I will put her in her place and she must accept you as her stepmother and this is my relationship and no questions asked. I am the father. But he didn't say anything like that.
He didn't, but he also opened his mouth to give her that information. So he opened himself up for that, but he also didn't have any kind of recourse. Yeah. There was no defense. There definitely wasn't any offense. Why am I speaking in sports terms?
That's a very good question for another time. Let's talk about Mina getting out of the tub and saying to Mark that he should find somewhere else to sleep tonight. This is their, I guess technically the night, but it's their first full evening together. What a great start to your 90 days. Get into a fight over his daughter. You call her a snake and tell your fiancé to go sleep somewhere else.
This is going to bode well for both of them. Actually, not just both of them. For how many kids does he have? 2, 3?
Plus, 2, I think.
Plus the baby with her?
Plus Maria.
Okay, I'm not mathing. Anyway, there's a lot of people involved in this, and you choose to walk away instead of actually having an adult conversation about it and sorting things out. And also, Mark should have just kept his mouth shut. Mark, shut your mouth. Glad we agree.
Moving on, the throuple. Wow. Everybody's least favorite couple on the show this year, Matt and Amani.
And Ani.
Yeah. Matt and Amani are going to Mexico. So they're leaving their 2 daughters at home for 2 weeks while they go meet up with their girlfriend. And we see a picture of Ani with her 3 kids. It looks like the son is older. And then we learn later on that, in fact, he's 20, that she had him when she was only 16 years old. Again, I was asking myself, how are all of these kids supposed to adjust to this newfound situation of the throuple? How are they even discussing this with them? And also making assessments at this point is Amani, who's saying she wants to see how Ani interacts with her family while they're on this trip. I guess this is a precursor to determining whether or not she's good enough to enter their family.
I don't believe any of it.
No.
They say that they're going for 2 weeks. This is the longest that they've ever left their kids. And yet, when you check out how far away it is from Tijuana to wherever they are, San Diego.
Angela, it's 2.5 hours by car.
Okay.
2.5 hours by car.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this? Why are you uprooting all of these kids, turning everything upside down, committing immigration fraud, destroying your marriage, getting a divorce, and remarrying one of them? We don't know who yet. For the sake of not having to drive 2.5 hours? You're freaking kidding me.
That is just, it's so lazy. Like the amount of couples that live in the States and do long distance versus this.
Yeah.
Like you're not important. This story's not important. I don't know why I said it like that. That was sorry.
You sound like, what's her name? The one who swallows her words, Stevie.
That's, yeah. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
You're so close, man. Like,
just go down there and screw as much as you want on the weekends. Nobody has to change schools, feel like they're in a weird family situation that their friends make fun of them at school for now. Just keep it private between yourselves until the kids are at least out of high school, and then do whatever the hell you want. But this is so irresponsible.
Can I also just say it's 2.5 hours? For 2.5 hours.
Sake, come on.
That's pitiful, is what it is. Oh, this is such a big deal. Oh, the K1. Really? And then we look at David and Sheila.
Mm-hmm.
Sheila's in the Philippines.
Yep. And she still gets refused her freaking visa, which is outrageous. And these people are saying on television, we're going to commit immigration fraud. We're going for a K1 visa for the sake of a freaking mid-range drive.
Yeah. What? That is the most appropriate response that we could have at this moment.
Could not believe it.
And then they say that they want to have a family together, but yet they haven't been behaving in a way that is supporting the fact that they want to have a united family, like a nuclear family.
Yeah.
There's been no discussion about bringing her kids over, although she does mention the fact that she wants them to meet her kids. Again, 2.5 hours. And then what about her kids? How do her kids or their kids feel about this? Well, they have no feelings because they have no knowledge. They're just planning on bringing this woman into their family. Now, all of a sudden, she just lives there. There's no thought process with regards to how the kids are going to feel about any of this. It's all just driven by sexual selfishness.
It's lust. It's all lust.
Yeah. And they haven't even tried, you know? And it's I think it's only been a year that they've been dating. And then Amani made the comment that it's the family that 3 of them can make. And yet there are 5 kids involved. It's just so incredibly selfish. That's 8 people. And you're just negating 5 of their opinions and feelings and emotions. You know what I mean? Or just, it's ridiculous.
Yes, ridiculous. In the car on the way to Tijuana, when the 2 of them are talking, Amani says that she wants to be sure that Matt is open and honest with her about his feelings and the conversations that he's having with Ani on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered if this jealousy is A, real, and B, who is it really directed towards? Do you think she's feeling jealous of her husband, or she's feeling jealous of her girlfriend?
No, I think she's projecting her own secrecy onto him, because in one of her side interviews, she makes mention about whether or not she's good enough for him. And we talked about this on the last episode. She's kind of laying the groundwork to say, oh, he deserves better than me, blah, 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 blah. So she's already trying to ice him out.
Okay.
By projecting her jealousy onto him. You guys are talking behind my back.
Mm-hmm.
But everything's going to be fine between her and Ani, but he broke her trust. So now he has to go, which further leads credence to her divorcing him. Yeah. I mean, they're going to get divorced anyway. And then her marrying Ani.
That's the way that my mind was going as well. I felt like even though this comes across as her being jealous of her husband spending too much time with Ani, I think what she's really trying to communicate is that She doesn't want Ani to be with her husband. She wants Ani all to herself. Okay, we do meet Ani in this episode, which I thought was great. About time. She's a stripper. Nothing wrong with that. But given this outrageous, crazy lifestyle where she works, as she says, from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m., it made me even more certain that the reason why she's doing this is to get out of Mexico, get out of Tijuana, go live in the States and have a chance at a better life. And I also started to wonder, well, what is she even going to do in the States? When she does eventually get her green card, if that's the way that it goes, is she going to find some job in Amani's company? Because didn't she say that she's a boss bitch and she runs her own company? So I wondered, does she plan on hiring Ani at the point when Ani can work in the U.S. so that Ani doesn't have to work as a stripper anymore?
An adult entertainer.
Which clearly is a very difficult lifestyle to maintain.
Especially with those hours.
Yeah. And who's looking after her daughter in all this time? Her two daughters are 11 and 7. And the one who's 7 lives with her. The one who's 11 does not. And her older child, the 20-year-old son, does not live with her either. Who's looking after the daughter? There's a woman who's shown in her apartment, but we aren't introduced to her. We don't know who she is. Questions?
I don't know.
Answers,
what
please.
does Amani do for a living?
She's a boss bitch. Yeah. Oh, she's in tech. She's a techie person. Remember?
Right. We've been trying to figure out what her actual I want to say
position.
Technique is, but
her technique is good one.
Sorry, I'm just being stupid.
Let's read on.
Oh God. Okay.
Okay, but you don't say, "Oh God." This is good. I think that Gregory and Joan are going to be the saving grace of this season. I think they will provide the most entertainment and the most conversation for us.
Is that who's next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go. Mom is still harping on the idea of the two of them having separate bedrooms in the house when Joan does arrive.
Which begs the question, has he ever had a girlfriend?
What? Wait. So you're saying there's a possibility that he's had a girlfriend in the past, entirely believable, but that they've had sex in Mom's house so that Mom has this history or precedent, which is why she's now saying that she doesn't want Joan to be sleeping in the same bed as Greg.
Well, it could just be like a long-standing thing for her.
Ew.
I don't want them in the house. I don't want to hear that. And that may, because we still don't know if he's ever had his own place yet, right?
Right. We don't know.
It could just be that she has been the cock block of the century for this guy.
That's what he called it.
Is that what he called it?
Uh-huh. In the first episode we met him, which was last week. So far ago. Such a long time
ago.
He did. He said Mom is a cock block.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. So maybe it's, Mom's standing tradition that she doesn't want people in the house. She doesn't want to hear him having sex with people, which I can understand.
Yeah.
But he's 35 now.
Yep.
Perhaps you should let the leash go. Let him go out on his own and have his own life, especially with a woman as beautiful and intelligent and ambitious as Joan.
Joan is 26. We finally learned her age this week. I was very happy about that.
Thank you.
26 to his 35. Okay.
So successful for her age.
Let's talk about the bread. Joan is going to receive a bread sign at the airport, not a handmade paper sign. Unusual, creative,
cute.
However, yet another loaf that gets manhandled. So I think we can safely assume that every loaf of bread that this man makes is caressed and fondled very well beforehand and by hand before it is eaten or given to whoever is going to eat it.
That's how I prefer my gluten. But then I wanted to follow it up with, do you think they're going to break the bread in the car? Is it going to be their breakfast?
Well, they do have a lot of food with them. They made all of those sandwiches and...
I was making a breaking of the feast joke.
Break the fast. Oh, sorry. Out of tune, out of touch. I am not following.
I could also be just falling completely flat with my jokes. So, okay, anyway.
Here comes Joan. She arrives. She's beautiful. I felt right away she's real. She has a great energy about her. I instantly liked her.
Oh, she seems like such a beautiful energy. And I really appreciated their airport greeting. I thought it seemed super genuine and really cute.
Except Gregory describes it as feeling like he's been born again out of his mother's womb. And I went, what the actual womb? Who uses this word anymore? Womb?
And also, why do you want to talk about your mom's vagina when you're seeing your fiance for the first time in however long?
Precisely. And with that lovely Freudian image stuck in my mind, burned into my cerebellum, they head off back
at the same time, if you will.
They head back to Mom's house. Now it is time for Greg to reveal to lovely Joan that Mom wants her to sleep in a separate room from her baby boy.
And doesn't say that this was a discussion that Mom and I had, and I told her that this isn't a thing. He tells her about the conflict, and then he makes the conflict her problem.
Describe how he makes the conflict her problem.
Because now she has to walk in knowing that her future mother-in-law doesn't want them to spend the night together. And he hasn't kiboshed it. He's just let it float in the wind. It's just something that happened, his mom's request.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't said, I told Mom that we're staying in the same bed. I told Mom that we're shutting the door. Nothing. He just gives her this preliminary je ne sais quoi, but what she's walking into. And then I wonder how much she actually knows about the situation.
I don't think she knows anything about the situation. This is the first discussion ever that this has come up for these two. He's clearly been hiding any issues that he's had about how their living arrangements will be when Joan finally gets to the U.S.
Which is such a juxtaposition from what he had said last week, because he said that he had nothing to hide and he's told her everything and she knows what she's walking into. And yet now we catch him in a lie.
Yes. Well, to Joan's credit, she immediately, when she hears that this idea is being floated, because that's what it seems to be at this point, she says, no, thank you. No, I didn't come all this way just to sleep in a different room. You're my fiancé. I'm going to sleep with you. And then he starts talking about these little compromises. Well, maybe we can leave the door open during the day so Mom knows that they're not fooling around in the room when they're in there. This is absurd.
This is ridiculous, because then you're setting the precedent. Like, when the door is closed,
don't come a knocking.
Yeah. But when the door is open, feel free to just barge in.
That's a great point. Yeah. Maybe you want to take a nap and the door has to be open while you're trying to sleep. Maybe you just want some alone time.
Maybe I just want to cuddle.
Yeah. Maybe I just want to cuddle.
Just spend some time together and, just
have a private conversation.
Yeah. And just enjoy each other's company, which you can't do on the couch because Mom's obviously putting around, doing laundry, doing all the cleaning, all the cooking. She's doing everything. She's going to be everywhere in the house.
I can't imagine what Joan is thinking at this moment when she hears this news, knowing her fiancé is 35 years old. And this is what she's walking into. Mom rules the roost. Mom is in charge of everything. Mom wants them to sleep separately. And she's about to marry this guy.
And not just that, but we're talking about boundaries here with the door. Mom does his laundry. Yeah. Mom tidies his room. So what's stopping Mom from barging in when Joan's having a nap and be like, I need to change the bed sheets?
Yeah, I don't have a good feeling about any of this.
No. And I think the way that Greg has pussyfooted around what the actual situation is really sad. Because obviously Joan deserves so much more. She's a very, very intelligent woman. She's not coming from the pits of hell and being like, just please let me live in your first world society. Like this, she's got an excellent career. She's got an excellent life, which he's already acknowledged. And he has said that she's going to take a step down. But how many steps is he going to allow her to take? And I hesitate to say that because it's really not him allowing her to, but it's her boundaries as well. However, just putting her in that situation where that could possibly happen. She had a full-time job. She makes her own money. I don't know if she has her own place or not, but obviously she has her autonomy. And now she goes to move in with her fiance, who she's completely in love with and wants to be with. And he throws her into this situation that is just, it's stripping her of all of that. It's stripping her of her autonomy. She can't work. She can't make money. We talked about this last week. And now it's stripping her of her privacy because now he doesn't even want to shut the door unless they're going to have sex, which is 100% going to tell his mom that we're having sex.
During this conversation in the car, I think Joan comes to the conclusion about two things, and they're very important. One is she's going to have to walk on eggshells around mom. Very uncomfortable. And this is going to last for who knows how long. He hinted last episode that it was going to be 1 to 2 years that they were going to be living with mom. And the second is that she's realizing this is going to be a huge challenge for her. Her life was so different before to what it's going to be now. She has lost so very much by coming to the States.
I would really, really hope that he has enough to offer, which he hasn't shown yet, to make her happy. Whether or not the love is enough, we've seen it time and time again where love is just not enough. But I think she deserves it. I think he has to earn it. And he also needs to grow up cold.
Yeah. Joan says that she wouldn't have come. Now, I'm not sure I believe this or not. She wouldn't have come if she'd known that mom wanted her to sleep in a different room.
I think it would have given her pause. Just given her enough time to digest and figure out how she would maneuver through it. But also, why is she having to maneuver through it? It's his mom.
Yeah, he should have dealt with it.
We've seen this with the whole Brendan and Julia thing. You deal with your parents. And he has not dealt with his mom. He's let her draw her own boundaries. And to be fair, it is her house. So she can have whatever boundaries she wants. And if he doesn't want to respect them, then he needs to GTFO. And I hate using the short forms. I'm just trying really hard not to swear.
Well, they eventually arrive at the house and mom is there. It's a weird first meeting. I don't know if you got that vibe as well, but there were a few things where I thought mom is really setting herself up for this to fail, or at least for her relationship with her son and Joan to fail, or maybe one or the other. She calls Joan clingy, not to her face, to the camera, and says to us they were supposed to have dinner together and talk, get to know each other when she arrived. But if that was true, I mean, first of all, it's 10 o'clock. In the evening when Joan arrives, quite late. You're going to have dinner now? What? Plus, she knows that she and her son sent all kinds of food to the airport for them to eat on their way back. Why is there a need for a meal to take place here? And finally, Joan has just flown. I think they said it was 7,000 miles. She's come a very long way. Of course, she is tired and all she wants is to shower and sleep. So why mom is setting this up for this confrontation kind of, Joan doesn't want to have dinner. There's something weird going on. And Joan is clingy.
No, I
don't
think
like that.
Because his mom has this grandiose idea of what this should be. And he has absolutely no concept of what it's like flying for that long, traveling that long, because it's not just the flying, it's the travel. And you could see how tired Joan was in the car when she was rubbing her eyes and just, I can't wait to get to bed. I can't wait to get to bed. And I think that this is his mom laying the foundation that this is all about her. And you're either going to bow down and do what I want, or I'm going to make your life a living hell. Like, oh my God forbid she stops cleaning up after him and he has to do his own laundry. But I think that she might actually try to put a wedge in between them. Because he's mama's boy, right? Mama's done everything for him. This woman comes in and wants to be his partner. And his mom sees that as a slight against her. And I'm speaking from personal experience on that one.
Ooh.
She does not like it when another woman comes in to try to steal her son away.
This is probably the most obvious point of contention in their storyline. There's that incident with the dog, and this is where it really became clear to me, where the dog Daisy goes into the bedroom with Joan and Greg, and the dog is growling at Joan and gets on the bed. Joan doesn't like that. She's not used to having dogs sleep on the bed or even in the house. So she insists the dog has to not sleep on the bed. Greg goes downstairs, tells his mom about this, and mom says to Greg, you should really push back on that. She's already interfering. She's already telling her son to ignore what his bride-to-be has expressed as a preference for not having the animals sleep on the bed, and said, oh no, you do it your way.
And it's not just, I don't want the dog sleeping on the bed. I don't want a dog who is clearly uncomfortable with me on the bed.
I know. But again, to his credit, instead of saying, yeah, mom, you're right, I should really do that, Greg pushes his mom back on the bedroom situation. And this is where he says she's going to sleep in the same room as me. So there is a little bit of backbone there. Then he starts crying and he says he'll leave the door open. So the mom agrees to this, but is it really a concession? Who is bowing down to who right here? I think Greg is kowtowing to mom. I don't think mom is making any concessions to him or to Joan, especially not to Joan.
I think the dog is living her best life. She gets to do what she wants, when she wants, where she wants, and no one's calling her out on it. No one has any inclination that this could be a safety issue. Does she just randomly growl at strangers? Or could Joan possibly be attacked? Is it a safety issue?
I don't know. All I know is that there's definitely very strong feelings on this first night, which are not good feelings. There's tension between mom and Joan, between mom and Greg, and it's already a triangulation relationship where somebody is going to be the persecutor, somebody's going to be the victim, and the third person is going to have to try to appease both of them. And it does not work. It does not work.
Yikes. I had a thought.
Okay, share.
I forget her name, but Clayton's wife.
Yeah. Yeah,
with
yeah.
The mom
with the mom.
Yeah, that slept in the closet. And how she, despite the fact that she slept in a closet, she still had so much say over.
Yeah.
I want to call her Ani, but I don't think that's right. Anyway, we know who we're talking about. And she comes in and Clayton's mom just shits all over her. You know, she can't clean the kitchen properly, even though she's the only one doing the cooking. But we know that that's not the situation here, but it's similar. You know? Mm-hmm. Just the mom meddling and not letting her son live. But I think the big difference between the two of them is that Clayton was supporting his mom at that time. And I feel
this
like
is the other
now,
way around.
Yeah. So she does get more say. I'll give her that. It is her house. She is allowed to set boundaries. And her son is also allowed to say no, and he can leave.
But she doesn't have to immediately start criticizing Joan to her son and telling her son how to conduct his relationship, i.e., well, you got to push back on that, or she's too skinny, or she's too clingy. These are not positives.
I think it's because this is his first real relationship, and she's still learning on how to manipulate the situation. So she's just coming right out the bat again with the sports terms, and just. She's flailing as well. I think all of them are flailing except for Joan. Joan is just like, what did I walk into?
Yeah, poor Joan.
I feel so bad for her. I kind of also want to be her friend. She seems so sweet.
She does. She
reminds me of Sheila.
Yep. Shall we read on?
Well, now I don't know where we are, but yeah.
Okay, well, I will tell you. It's Stevi and Mahdi.
All right. I have 2 notes.
Okay. What are the 2 notes?
One is, okay, great, they slept. And then my second was, oh, I'd eat that donut.
Oh, the beignet. Oh, yeah.
Didn't even know it was a beignet, but it was a powdered donut of some sort.
It looked amazing. And I loved how enthusiastic he was over it.
Oh,
talking about how
never
he
had anything like this before.
And how if all of the food in the States is like this, he's going to get very fat. He wants to send one home to his family so they can taste it. All just really delightful stuff. I didn't have too many notes either. I just was a little bit stuck on the conversation that they had when they were in bed the morning after he arrived. So Stevi is feeling kind of unsettled about that conversation when they talked about Mahdi perhaps wanting to go back to Iran someday. She seems very insecure about this right now, and she wants reassurance. It's not just asking for reassurance, though. I felt like there was something deeper there. It felt a little bit it felt a little bit selfish. Like
Okay.
she frames this whole conversation that they had the night before in terms of how she was hurt by him asking that question, no longer referencing maybe he's hurt because he's just had to leave everybody and everything he's ever known with no possibility of ever going back. But going so far as to say that this conversation means that he shouldn't have made the choice that he did to come to the US, I think is kind of pushing him into the bad guy category, which is not necessary right now. He just made a really big life decision and his world is upside down. Give him a little bit of time to adjust. Stop making it about you. And no, don't tell him that it was the wrong choice to come to the US if that's how he really feels. He doesn't really feel that way. This is his first night.
Give him some time to adjust, man.
Yeah.
Like,
he's just left a dictatorship. And when he's walking around in New Orleans with her the next day, he's in a trance. He's in a dream. You can see it in his face. Everything is so incredibly new to him. And she describes it as, it's like when you take a kid to Walt Disney. I don't really get that reference. Canadian here, you know, it never been me. The just the dreamlike state that he was in was delightful to watch and made me feel really good about him being in that environment and being able to be free.
It was like that juvenile excitement that you get from doing something new. You know, having cotton candy for the first time or going on a Ferris wheel for the first time. Just things that you never really thought were real. I mean, depending on who you are and where you're from. I found it so, is endearing the right word? I just thought it was super cute the way that he was all like awe and wonder and so appreciative, but also you could tell that he had that reservation within him. And I don't know if it was one of the previews, but with people dancing in the streets and how it made him uncomfortable because like at home you get, you know, you're lucky
Get
if
arrested.
you don't get shot. Yeah, I can't imagine what's going on in his head right now. The civil unrest at home versus the freedom that he is in right now. The incongruity must be so difficult for him to comprehend.
Yep.
It's a lot. And for her to wake up and be like, oh, hey, so last night when you said that, I felt like that was very selfish. Well, no, that's very selfish of you. That's very, like, you're lacking in understanding and appreciation. And she was being very selfish.
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
Yeah.
Let's read on. Shekinah and Sarper are the final couple this week. They start off at the pool. It's like a family day. It's quite sweet. And Sarper's cousin is expressing to Shekinah the family's worries over him leaving. In essence, they're just anxious about him being alone in the US without their support, having only Shekinah to rely on, which, given what they know of the couple's past and how much they fought, is a real concern because they have gotten to the point where Shekinah just takes off. Things are not that stable. And then they talk a little bit about how much Shekinah is going to have to deal with. They have these issues of jealousy and control, which we've seen time and again over the past few seasons.
Yes.
Absolutely, that's going to come up. We know that. That's a given. It's time for them to leave. They say goodbye to the family. They go back to Istanbul, and Shekinah and Sarper have a little bit of time before they have to the US. So departure day, Shekinah, she launches a bomb at Sarper, which is kind of funny. She says about her daughter, whose name is Sophie, that Sophie has a bad impression of Sarper, which she's gotten from Shekinah's sister. Of course she has, because Shekinah's sister hates Sarper. Shekinah says that she's not going to marry Sarper unless Sophie approves of him. So he's got some hoops to jump through. Thank you very much for dropping that bomb, Shekinah, just before you guys leave for the States.
Yeah.
That was classic.
Yep. Way to resolve this before he got the K1.
And he, of course, retaliates with things like, oh, well, I'll just leave. I'll come back. And it will have been a nice vacation in the United States. And I'll come back to my beautiful apartment, which, I mean, she has no sympathy or empathy for this guy whatsoever. He's leaving everything. We say this all the time. Can't you at least be a little compassionate towards your partner who has to give up all of their things, all of their family, all of their relationships? Sure, he's giving up an apartment that you may not have any attachment to, but he does. He loves it. He's got to leave. Lines, come on.
He's leaving an entire, not just a lifestyle, but like who he was. He's leaving an entire person behind in order to be with her. And I don't think that she realizes or appreciates that. I think she feels very almost self-serving about it. Yeah, of course you're going to leave that lifestyle for me because I'm good enough for that. Why can't you just appreciate where he came from?
But she thinks that she is the cause of him changing. She says, I took you from a fuckboy to a real man. So she feels like she's the one responsible for who he is now. It's all up to her. It's not even his work that's brought him to this point. It's her work.
We've seen it. We've seen the amount of effort that he's put in. We've seen his struggles. And we've also seen him going from an absolute piece of shit that we don't ever want to talk about or whose face we don't even want to see to actually being an enjoyable human being. And I think that Shekinah is just going to absolutely siphon the life out of him. I don't think that they're good together. And I think that that's what his sister was trying to say when they were at the pool.
Ah, okay.
They're not good together. He only has Shekinah in the States and she has that habit of leaving. And Shekinah's like, oh, he can go stay with my friends. And his sister laughs. You don't know my brother if you think that he's going to do that. Where's his safe space outside of you?
There isn't one.
Can you not create one for him? Because he's given her more than enough safe space where he is. Living in Turkey, giving her the option, or not the option, because it wasn't that. She could go home. She can see her kid. And it's not the same for him. You know, what if she kicks him out in the middle of the night? Where is he going to go? To one of her friends' places so he can be chastised by one of her friends for not bowing down to one of her ridiculous relationship requirements? Like, like, how uncomfortable is that for him? And he said this before. I don't even know if it was in this season. It may have been on the last tell-all, being like, you know, this is going to really determine whether or not we can be together. And I think it's not going to work out. I think that Sarper has really outgrown her, which is so surprising to say, coming from an absolute shell of a Ken doll to an emotionally aware, intelligent, and humorous individual.
Yeah, if anything, Shekinah, for me, has become even more plastic, even more fake. And the fact that when they're in the car driving to the airport, or maybe it's when they're driving back to Istanbul, she can't even sympathize with him over the cultural differences and how he has a relationship with his family and how he views them, to how she has this absolutely shitty, non-existent relationship with her family. And so she's cutting into him. She's complaining about him being dependent and having a relationship with his family, as opposed to her, who is forced to be totally independent and self-sufficient because she has cut herself off from all of her family members, as far as we know. Maybe not her sisters so much, but it sounds like her sister has been cut off as well. Her complete lack of ability to empathize with another human being is really hitting me hard right now in these moments. So I do agree with you. I don't think they will last. And I think it is because Sarper continues to grow and she continues to stagnate.
And she also made a comment, I don't know if it was in one of the interviews, but she said that Sarper doesn't like not being in the power seat. And I took that as Shekinah's too controlling. She's impulsive. She's reactive with, you know, her kicking him out or her leaving. And she made the comment that she thinks he's going to sabotage the relationship. So I see this as her being an absolute narcissist, whereas we thought in the beginning that he was a narcissist. She is the narcissist. She is going to lay this bed where he's going to leave and she's going to blame it all on him, even though she has shown absolutely no growth in any capacity. And Sarper has turned into an, dare I say, unenjoyable human being.
The only change that has taken place in Shekinah is on her face.
Yeah. And that was the nose that he designed for her. And I thought that was controlling, but I think that she used that. Yeah, you can design my nose, but then I'm going to design the rest of your life. It's like a foot in the door technique. I'll ask you for something simple, or I'll do something simple for you, and then I'm going to ask you for literally the world.
Yeah, and you won't
And
be able
what
to
you
say no, because I will emotionally blackmail you or blackmail you in other ways until I get what I want. Yep.
And dare I say, Sarper has outgrown Shekinah, and I can't wait to see that happen, because this is a completely new life for him. I think he realizes that she's not good enough for him.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, you remember before he was all like, "Oh, I've been a fuck boy for so long, and now I've found this woman," and he wants to like grovel at her feet. And then he's going to realize that she's not good enough for him. And that's going to blow his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying he's a perfect human being, obviously. He obviously has his issues. But it's actually been a joy to see, especially since the last tell-all, when we got to see his humor and his insight.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I started to realize that she had been siphoning his personality from him.
Fascinating. All right. So let's close up. We've got no Jessica and Juan this week, no Sean and Aaliyah this week, but
Juan is alone in one of the bathrooms.
I'm not going to ask what he's doing in the bathroom.
He's crying.
Next week, we've got Mahdi and Stevie going to her home, and she exposes all of her art to him. Greg and Joan are living a very cozy life with Mom. Aaliyah and Sean are back. Yay. Amani, Matt, and Ani are reunited. And finally, Mark's friends meet Mina. And is she already trying to get them to take sides? Hers or Jordan's? Ouch. Not good.
Perfect introduction.
Doesn't it leave a lasting and wonderful impression on your partner's friends when you try to sabotage his daughter in front of them? Eesh.
Welcome.
Before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or give our show a follow. And if you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find our show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.